were trying to characterize the Kennedy administration. Jacqueline Bouvier Kennedy and John F. Kennedy, that administration was known collectively as Camelot, because there's a popular music going on that hit American shores. Again, it's the Anglo-American connection, the special relationship, which has been cultivated and engineered purposely so that the City of London maintains control over mainstream USA. And they're really struggling hard now in 2025 because the information is out there now. We know their MO, right? So it's called Camelot, starring none other than Richard Hedis. And they loved it. So they said, oh, this is the Kennedy, we are the new Camelot. And also, speaking of the Anglo-American cooperative popular culture venture or mind buggery, was the embrace of a former intelligence agency, Ian Fleming. Yeah. When asked who his favorite literary man was, John F. Kennedy, he was president at the time, he said, I really like Ian Fleming, 007. These are my favorite books. And that was played up. And those are my favorite movies growing up as well. And so I had to, and I'm currently still doing it. I'm reviewing them. And I'm also, it was about a year ago now, I read sequentially in chronological order, in order of publication, all the Ian Fleming 007 fiction set mostly in Jamaica in the Caribbean, which is the location now of the banking system. The global banking system is no longer geographically set in Fort Knox or in the City of London. It's in the Bahamas. It's in the Caribbean. That's why Jeffrey Epstein set up shop there, because we're moving into the post-material economic system. They're going to pull the rug on us. It's called a rug pull in the crypto world, and move us over into the Bitcoin universe. And Ian Fleming was giving his marching orders from MI decades ago. Says, okay, we have to popularize. How are we going to do this? Well, we're going to create spy novels. And there's a tradition of British spy novels going back at least to World War I. And he followed in that path. And it became part of our zeitgeist.
At the top of the pyramid of the three-letter agencies in the UK and the US that are spearheading this, how is it structured in terms of mass brainwashing of the entire world in many ways? How many people would you say are involved, or are the people that are involved also brainwashed, and are they aware of what they're doing and the kind of strings they're pulling?
The people in the capstone are fully read into it. They are quite literally initiated. And we have been inundated ad nauseum with all these movies, stories, accounts of skull and bones, right? It's almost trivial now. So when I say it, it's not going to have any sort of meaning. It's going to be, oh, well, we know that already, dude. Joe Rogan talks about this all the time, man. Yeah. That doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. It doesn't mean that it's an effective model. It's very much in play. And it comes from the whole, and again, this is a concept that's been nauseatingly overdone by now. They're secret societies. And this goes back millennia. And by the way, it's not just Egypt and Babylon. It's also places like Nanjing. You've got your Asian secret societies and Caribbean ones too, from native groups. Now later, at some point, we'll be talking about Santa Barbara as being the sacred site for these groups: intelligence, actors, writers, intellectuals, think tankers, Santa Barbara. And as you know, I don't know how close a royal watcher you are, but the town of Montecito.
I do have a royal YouTube channel.
Okay, there you go. You know the name Montecito, right?
I do.
But that whole area was run by a conglomerate, a federation of Indian tribes collectively known as Chumash. They had their own initiatory rites, pyramids, secret societies within even the tribal societies. So you have then the subsequent European people coming in, the Spanish, the Mexican, and then finally the American episode that has run this area. And so happens that I had been doing some research on the origins of the American film industry, since you talk about Tom Hanks, Mel Gibson, people like that. This book is called Movies and $1 Million Mansions. The subtitle is Silent Movies Made in Montecito, California. This is before Hollywood. So when we talk about Hollywood, that's just a shorthand for a much more complex geographic orbit that we're doing Montecito, because it's beautiful up there. The weather is almost perfect every single day of the year. It's right on the Pacific. The lighting is good. Not much. Well, there's some rain, but not too much. But the living is really nice. And this is really the origins of the American film industry, is not Hollywood per se. That's where the sets were. There it was up in Montecito. This is why the celebrities to this day have gravitated to the area. And if you look at some of the names, most of them are unfamiliar to us by now. They're lost to history. Most of the talent, especially the acting and the directing talent, were British because they came out of the theater. It was highly developed before the age of cinema, right? Most of your early American theatrical performers had direct experience with the London stage, and it translated into Hollywood movies. So the talent pool itself was built upon the empire.
Talking of Montecito, do you think, because there's been a lot recently out about the way celebrities and pastors, whatever the correct way in anyone's accent is to say it, are grouped in places like there and Hidden Hills.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that there are religious leaders being sent from three-letter agencies into these pockets of where elites in America reside?
Absolutely. Specifically in Santa Barbara, not surprisingly, you're going to find any number of people grouped under the larger generic heading of New Age. Definitely not Christian. Absolutely Luciferian. You've got your Blavatskys, your Theosophists, and you have your, this mishmash of different Asian-ish type religions. Anything that's non-Christian or anti-Christian is welcomed with open arms up in Santa Barbara. It's been historically a site, a geographic location for these heterodox ideas. Santa Barbara, Montecito, along with the Bay Area, San Francisco, and Los Angeles, are associated globally, internationally, with cutting-edge thought, belief, behavior because of this occult tradition that goes back, I don't say decades, I say centuries, because it begins with the native people. They were the ones who were ingesting the datura plant. It's a hallucinogen. They made rituals. They organized themselves on that basis. And by the way, there's good archaeological evidence emerging that ritualistic use of these hallucinogens, and your own Aldous Huxley, by the way, came to Hollywood specifically so he can indulge himself in this. There's a really good book called Huxley in Hollywood that talks about his foray into, quote unquote, Hollywood. But there's evidence that these native people, the Chumash, they got their ethnobotanical science from the yellow people, right?
Your
The
people, Professor.
Exactly. They came in by boat, trans-Pacific, from South Asia, East Asia, bringing in their ethnobotanical culture and and plants, right? And this is why you have sort of an Asiatic Orientalist veneer on a lot of these characters who live up in Montecito, like Oprah Winfrey, right? So I know she has a home in Maui, and then Ellen DeGeneres and her quote unquote wife used to live there. I think they moved into your country. Maybe they're moving. I know they had a home there. A lot of celebrities. These are just some of the more well-known ones there. So you have a whole tradition of witchcraft, right, from Europe, German, English, French Rosicrucianism. You have Native and you have Asian. And I mentioned Oprah Winfrey. Her people come from the South. And so they come from Voodoo. We're talking about Haitian. We're talking about Toussaint Louverture. We're talking about the Haitian Revolution, which is what the colonial powers like France were afraid of. I mean, the black people of Haiti overthrew the reigning colonial empire, France, the Empire of France, and they created a nation called Haiti. So they determined they would never rise above the certain level of squalor. And this situation obtains to 2025. And the same pattern was repeated all over the world. It was attempted, including the yellow world, the Asian world. Now, the reason why the yellow people in Hollywood / Anglo-American films coming out of London do not show people like me, especially if we're heterosexual. If you're a gay Asian man, you're in, okay? But not a heterosexual like me. We'll put Steven Seagal where I should be instead. You don't see us, and if you do see us, we are Dr. No. Right, alluding back to Cubby Broccoli, Albert Broccoli, and Ian Fleming, Dr. No.
There's so much racism within the entertainment industry as well towards yellow people. And I just, in case viewers weren't on the last stream, Professor Hamamoto told me to call him a yellow person. I am not being incredibly rude by doing this. You did encourage me to. But there is, you very much get pigeonholed. And it's like when the three-letter agencies are recruiting for the world stage, it's like, we'll have a few of those Haitian voodoo. That'll be Oprah and Beyonce. We'll have a few yellow spies. And then everyone very much stays in their lane. And this is so interesting because when you see these people, there's so many examples, but when you see someone that tries to diversify or go against that set narrative, the backlash is unbelievable. And the very ecosystem that has pretended to nurture them and build them up then tries to destroy them.
Yeah, absolutely. This is something that I rebelled against professionally through my entire career, and that's probably the reason why I was banned from the university, quite literally banned. I'm no longer entitled to ever hold a job with the illustrious University of California system. Right? I've been blackballed. I've been excommunicated. I don't mean to be dramatic here. I mean, they had to bring in the former head of Homeland Security, Janet Napolitano. They made her the president of the University of California just to subdue this yellow man.
And why are you banned?
Because I wasn't staying in my lane. They said, just talk about Oriental issues. You cannot talk about the Illuminati. What do you know about Sir Walter Scott? How can you speak authoritatively on Ian Fleming? What do you know? You are not inducted into the Knights Templar like he was. I suspect his father was a Scottish banker. My theory, my hypothesis is that James Bond was a Templar Knight. That's why by the end of the series of books, Q wants to give him, or is it M, one of the initials? He says, well, Bond, I think you've been doing such a great job. I'm going to nominate, initiate a process whereby you will become a knight of the realm. And Bond turns it down. This is at the end of the whole series. And I couldn't figure out why he would do that. And the reason why it would have been redundant. He is the true heir of Britain. He's a Templar. He's a Scot. He is the legitimate person on the throne, not these Saxe-Coburg, Battenberg family. He can't say that. That's subversive. He could get executed. He'd be whacked. So he'll put it in a little cheesy novel, 007, but that's what I'm reading into it. Right. So, yeah, we're talking about Christopher Nolan, read into the program, directed the movie Oppenheimer. What was that movie about? It was about the mass annihilation of Yeller peoples, was it not? Yes. Hiroshima, Nagasaki. I lived in Hiroshima for an entire year. I visited Nagasaki for the 50th anniversary. I've done quite a bit of study on these areas. That's how I read the Oppenheimer saga. But you don't get that from the film itself. You just instead get a tormented individual who later in life in his career was accused of being a communist rat. And then he pretty much faded into obscurity. But I look at him as an intellectual, and Oppenheimer types are very much in play today in 2025. People like Alex Karp, right? These AI people. He's seen as a tragic hero by his biographer, Kai Bird, whose father, by the way, was an intelligence man. I think he was OSS, who wrote the book Oppenheimer, from which the Christopher Nolan film was adapted. So again, you see the connections of family.
Talking of family connections, Professor, Tucker Carlson's father was in the CIA. Is that correct?
Richard Carlson, yes. Absolutely.
So
he was the head, as you know, of Voice of America.
So does this mean then that you discount, are these people aware? Tucker, to me, looks very much like he's been groomed and created for a certain role. Would I be right in that assumption?
Well, he's not a complete loss, because just like rat poison, there has to be something in there that's digestible before you can really get the creature, right? That's him. And I respect his intellect and his skill as a communicator. And I disliked him from the very start when he was a young buck who just came out of, I think he's a Dartmouth graduate. I can't remember where he went to school. And I didn't even know much about him, but he was just sort of a snob. I just pegged him as sort of a Yaley, a Northeastern elite, but he actually comes from San Diego, California, which is very much like Santa Barbara, by the way.
Yeah.
But it's a heavily military dominated secret services agencies, OSS, all the foreign agents are in San Diego. That's where he comes from. But he affected sort of a transatlantic behavior and speech, and there's a certain accent that actors have. It's called transatlantic. It's not British, it's not American, but they split the difference. It's called transit. He was kind of like that, and he wore the bow tie. He wore the what they call preppy outfit. So I didn't like him at the beginning, but then I realized Oh, it's because he grew up in DC. He was groomed to be part of the what they call the white shoe boys. These are the people who are going to be at the levers of power and manipulating thought, behavior, and the political system. They're going to be control of it. His people are still very much in control, despite the fact that he is making some waves within that bounded system. But he's make no doubt about it, he is very much part of that system. Yes, his father, Dick Carlson.
Does he know he's part of that system?
Absolutely. He's acknowledged it and he's even apologized for it because he knows that people like you and me, we know the backstory now. There's something called the internet and YouTube and social media. We're not kept in the dark forever anymore. It's really, really a short time before all these shadowy activities are revealed. Look at just in the time we've last talked, all the revelations about Turning Point USA, the administration living in the lap of luck, not living in the lap, they're living luxuriously in mansions, in estates.
So, Professor,
Mhm.
there are wide reports that Tucker Carlson and Piers Morgan are being paid by the Qataris. Obviously, we'll never get the truth on that. I know what I think. Does that mean that the three-letter agencies would be working with the Qataris to hypothetically control people like Piers Morgan and Tucker Carlson?
Well, so far as I know, my understanding of the history is that Qatar is a product of British Petroleum. All these emirates come out, and in the state of Israel itself, I'm sorry to blurt that out, is a product of this larger imperial center based in the city of London. So when you say that they're being paid by the Qataris, you're talking about they're being paid from the city of London as it's passed through Doha or wherever it might be, or the Saudis, right? It's what they call, as you know, the great game. It's a continuation of that. Now, any type of receipts that you can produce on Tucker Carlson and Piers Morgan, the sleazy journalist who has infiltrated American media, he should be deported immediately, so far as I'm concerned.
Get him out this
If,
country.
if you maybe they'll accept him in Qatar.
We don't want him here.
No, supposedly, because he's been criticized. Supposedly, he lives in London 6 months out of the year. I think mostly he's living in Florida someplace with the other Euro trash. But we, we don't want him here anymore. Hey, listen, I'm a yellow man. I'm a third generation American, and I have a suppressed YouTube channel. I've been banned for life from the University of California, and you have some unethical sleazebag called Piers Morgan who has the attention of Mr. and Mrs. America. There's no reason for that. Pardon me?
Professor Piers Morgan, who edited the Daily Mirror, and would you believe it, didn't know phone hacking was going on, as he told the court during the Leveson inquiry.
I was so shocked by that. Yeah, one of a journalist, I think his family named Davis, wrote an entire book on that whole scandal. So yeah, this is all part of the psychological operations, spying, blackmail. It's all of a piece. The movie industry, celebrity, who knows what smut, what kind of files exist on Tom Cruise, for example. One can only imagine. But you know what? It will emerge one day. It will emerge. I've been reading this. I don't know what type of reputation he enjoys in Britain, but his name's Tom Bowers.
Yes.
Is he well regarded in your home country?
Very, very good author.
Okay, well, I just wanted to verify my perception. I thought he's good too. But I've been reading his rereading, actually, The Rebel King. And this was about Charles before he became king, right? The monarch. And he talks about all these different intrigues that are going on right under our nose that are not reported. So, ladies and gentlemen, the lesson there is that if you want to know the true inside lowdown, stop watching the bro shows. Read Tom Bowers, read Lady C, read Andrew Loney. They're out there. And so far they're able to publish openly. I know speech acts are being suppressed and tweets are being suppressed in the UK now, but so far as print media is concerned, it's still open. So you find these books, you read them, and get the true information instead of that which is debased and related to you in some sort of paregoric high of Joe Rogan or his imitator, the bros, the dudes. Read the books, and I will tell you, they are highly entertaining. I like to read about the intrigues.
How is it possible, well, why rather, is your YouTube channel suppressed and Candice Owens is thriving? Is it because they could, because she's speaking, obviously she's not a patch on you, Professor, even though I do love her, but she is being very open. Yes, a lot of the information, like you say, has been readily available in academia and has been out there, but she has broken it down in a way that's very digestible to a mainstream audience. So why have the three-letter agencies not suppressed her?
Well, she's obviously serving a need or a function for the three-letter agencies who, as you know, as in the example of Ian Fleming, work very closely with MI. Right. And is not her husband, George Church, I think his name is he not affiliated? He's nobility, but he's also intelligence. He's a Roman Catholic as well. And he has been recently coming forward and speaking independently of Candace Owens. And you know about their whirlwind courtship and romance, and she dropped 4 babies like right in rapid succession. Now, this is not a knock on Candace Owens as such. I think she has had, talking about childhood grooming, I think as a child she learned the basic techniques of Silva mind control, neuro-linguistic programming, and all the other techniques in order to bypass the rational mind and just go straight for the emotional core. This is why her speech rate is at I don't know, 3 times mine. Maybe that's why my subscriptions are so low, because my speech patterns are intended to stimulate thought and reflection. Hers are meant to go straight to the emotional core. I've studied her technique, just like I studied the techniques of these televangelists like Joel Osteen. And I did it in order to improve my own classroom teaching performance. I wonder, how do they communicate? How do they manage to hold an auditorium of hundreds of people with complete focus? This is Joel Osteen. He's a very popular televangelist in America, and I'm sure they have them in your country. And I studied the old tapes of Oral Roberts, the healers, because they are enacting a form of mind control, mass mind control, ritualistic control of the scene.